being here. Thanks for being with us. Just to give you an overview of who all's on the call today, we have attendees from the distribution community, the manufacturing community, GPOs, IDNs, and RPCs. So it's well attended, and we had about 600 folks go in and click on the link, and over 300 attendees register. So again, this is a great interest on this merger, and we're excited to have three of the gentlemen that will play key roles in it. So Tom, Roger, and Dave, we are, myself as well as the staff here at Repertoire, really thank you guys for being willing to take the call. Dave, thanks for getting up at 6 o'clock this morning to make it in to make this call, given your central time. Just a heads up for anyone that misses the call, we will be recording it and sending out information on that via daily news. So folks that are on the West Coast will be able to go in and listen to this later on today. With that, we have Dave Larson on the call as one of our panelists from Kreisers, Roger Benz from Seneca Medical, and Tom Harris from MMS. And Tom, I think you wanted to say a couple of words before we jump into the Q&A part of the call.
Sure. Thanks, Scott. Really appreciate the opportunity to further explain this recently announced merger. It's truly in response to the current state of the healthcare industry that we've decided to merge MMS, Kreisers, and Seneca Medical. Strategic decision to create this new company called Concordance Healthcare Solutions, and we really appreciate the opportunity to explain the process. So thanks again, Scott, and good morning, Roger. Hello, David.
This morning.
Tom, thank you so much. I'll start with you, Tom. And before I get going on the questions, we've taken questions in and put Mark Till, our one of our main writers, which most of the industry knows for Repertoire and Journal of Healthcare Contracting, and I worked on questions, but we also took questions from around the community, and then we tried to put those into like questions, and we got down to about 10 questions that we're going to ask this morning. We may or may not take the full 30 minutes, but we feel like we've got a nice range of questions that came in from the folks that registered, as well as just things that probably the industry as a whole is interested in. So we'll start out with Tom. Tom, just to start, question number one here. How long has this project been in the works, and what were some of the key or most difficult parts to working through this when you're trying to bring three different entities together?
Well, MMS and Seneca have actually been in discussions on and off for a number of years. The process stalled for a couple of years, and I think about 20 months ago, I approached Roger at an industry meeting and asked him the question, shouldn't we try this again? We saw similarity in our business models, but more importantly, in the cultures of the two companies. So we began discussions in earnest at that point in time, and then shortly after that, I believe it was late in the summer of 2014, I had heard that Kreisers potentially was interested in some sort of partnership or alliance. So I picked up the phone and I called Dave Larson and had a discussion with Dave, and I've explained to him where MMS and Seneca were in our discussions about a potential alliance or merger, and asked Dave if he would be interested in joining in our discussions, and Dave said yes, he certainly would be, and here we are. So once again, the cultures of the three companies were really the key to getting this deal done. As far as the second part of the question, Scott, sure, we had a number of challenges that we had to work through, but I have to say the chemistry of the small circle of those that were involved was really outstanding, and we just got along famously, and as a result of that chemistry, we really overcame all challenges to get this merger done.
That's great. I imagine it was interesting times working through the last 24 months of trying to pull all of this together. Roger, I'll jump over to you for the second question. Why, in your opinion, would you say this is good for the three companies, and then follow it up with good for your customers, and also good for the manufacturing community, your vendors? So 3 different entities there. If you can speak to each of those 3.
All right. Well, certainly how it's good for us, and us being all 3 companies, is being independent regional distributors. It certainly spreads the geographical capability to a much larger extent. It doesn't get to a national level yet, but it might be termed a near national. And as healthcare has continued to consolidate at the provider level, and with the consolidation, you see a geographical spread of many of the systems. It allows the 3 independents who had their own distinct regions to create a larger footprint to service the larger systems as that consolidation trend potentially continues. Kind of corollary to it is the reinforcement, I think, across the 3 companies of our different classes of trade. Seneca has been predominantly an acute care distributor, but we have always been in all classes. But if you look at our economics of how we could do business, we're heavily acute care based. Conversely, you see a greater spread of that book of business at both Kreisers and MMS. We're a much stronger presence in the alternate site governmental space. And so you begin to see how these the expertise levels of the 3 companies are complementary, not contradictory. And to a large extent, that goes for the geography too. When you look at a map of where our facilities will be, where our people are at, there's just no overlap or competition in those spaces. They're purely accretive. So it's a perfect fit from I think from a sales and market point of view, and from a geographical point of view. And I think probably the bigger overriding comment Tom's already made is culturally, you've got 3 very similar companies in how they do business, how they view the market, how they view the customer, and it just it's almost an exponential combination rather than an additive. But that's the us part. I think for the customers, almost the same answer. Again, because a lot of that answer was about how it better enables us to meet the customer need. Certainly, again, the geographical spread allows us to deal with customers as they cross over our old distribution lines. So now that we're one bigger footprint. Again, the reinforced expertise in all classes of trade. But I think, too, probably the last part of that is our intent, and this probably goes to the core of this transaction, is to maintain the independent service level mentality that the 3 companies has as separate. If the phrase "bigger is dumber" is true, our goal is to try to avoid that. So our goal is to continue to provide the customers that we can reach the independent alternative. Lastly, for the vendors, certainly 1 point of contact in the long term versus 3 would be a simplistic way of doing business. But it probably is more than that. Again, it aligns with, as the independent distributors, the non-nationals, our segue or foray into private label, into, I'll even call it a competitive nature with many of the manufacturers, doesn't exist. So that we can ideally have a closer, more strategic fit with the name brand manufacturers, and leverage that to grow not only our business but theirs.
Perfect. Roger, I'll follow up with a second question for you. In the press release, you guys made it real clear that this was not an acquisition but a merger. Why would you say that that's important, that it's a merger versus an acquisition?
Let me give you a little analogy and then I'll answer it. But in 2001, Seneca was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to acquire 2 warehouses from what was then AmeriSource Medical Supply. And it was an acquisition. Again, an acquisition of a group of people and book of business that was extremely similar to who we were. But you saw the stress in those employees and in those customers is, what does this mean? Is this now something different than we've had? Is my job at risk? Is my supplier at risk? And in, I think, a quote I put in our press release about it, it's not an acquisition. And I think that's the key to why this will work. The stress level for employees and the industry at large is these are non-competing companies that geographically fit, market-wise fit, and expertise-wise will hopefully allow us to really become a better organization on the outbound side. Our dream here, guys, and it's no different than the story I tell from 2001, is the 1,000 employees we have today, I would hope not a one of them is a concern for their job, because my belief is in 2 years we are going to need 500 more. This is not a transaction of threat, but one of just, I think, phenomenal opportunity. And then at the end of the day, again, we want to further our customer-focused, independent distributor mindset. It really isn't about consolidations and synergies in expense reduction. It's about building a better machine and a better opportunity to grow and provide the healthcare supply needs of our industry.
That's a great answer. I love that it's not a transaction of threat. That's great. And taking off from your comment there geographically, Dave, I'd like to bounce over to you. Geographically, where are each of your strengths, and then what challenges / opportunities will that present Concordance?
Okay, thank you, Scott. Well, first of all, I think we need to define our strengths as a whole, and I put our number one strength is our employees. We've all got dedicated and loyal, knowledgeable, customer-friendly, and employees that are excelling in their positions. I think all three companies have that going for us, and that's very, very important on a day-to-day business. Next is 3 strong independent medical surgical distributors now joining forces. We're all long-standing businesses with great relationships with our customers and the manufacturers. I think that's very important and one of our strengths. Next, I think our culture is a strength of our 3 companies. All 3 companies are putting the customers first and wanting the best for our employees to fulfill their goals. And another strength would be 19 warehouses. Warehouses that are close to our customers and with a real reality of the potential of expansion from there. So I think it's very impressive to combine 3 distributors to cover close to 70% of the United States. And by having this large footprint, it will give Concordance more opportunities to expand that coverage. And lastly, I have to believe that Kreisers will be perceived as more credible by our larger customers by this merger.
Thank you, Dave. Dave, one more question kind of to follow up along those same lines. From the distribution center standpoint, is there duplication? If so, where? And how will you address that?
Okay. Well, Scott, I should go over our challenges and opportunities first. I might have not put that in as part of the second part of that question. But we do have some challenges and opportunities. But our main challenge is facing the new organization is ensuring the culture of best-in-class service remains at the core of our operation, our operational excellence as we move through the integration. We shouldn't get bogged down with infrastructure. Sooner we can be integrated operationally, the better going forward. And I think one of the main things about that is we have a great board of directors going forward. We've got both Tom and Roger, of course, being on the board, but we've got some industry leaders being on that board, and I think that they can work through some of these challenges. Another challenge would be integrating the employees, having them feel like one company. And I don't think this should be too hard of a challenge. I believe the Kreisers employees feel like we just got better. Many challenges are facing us, but I believe that they can be made into opportunities. And getting over to the opportunities, I think they're endless. Our first point is geographically, we are stronger together than we are apart. And also 70% of the healthcare entities in the United States will be covered by this merger. We will excel and give great service to our customers, and that's being done by having numerous warehouses that are close to our customers. And Kreisers looks forward to delving into Seneca and MMS's warehouse management systems, getting common software, phone systems, and increase our service levels. And Kreisers will share our strengths also there, Scott.
Thank you, Dave. Tom, I'll come back to you. From a field sales rep standpoint, what markets will the new company cover? And can you touch a little bit on each one of those where you guys have strength?
Sure, Scott. It is our intent to have a highly experienced sales presence in really every healthcare class of trade. And this would include acute care, IDN, LTC, government, home care, hospice, EMS, et cetera, et cetera. While each of us provide a high level of service to different classes of trade currently, we feel that each entity that comprises Concordance has an expertise that the other did not. So it's our intent to really fully utilize that expertise to develop a best-in-class sales force in every region that we serve.
Thank you. Tom, I'll stick with you on the next one. What are the market strengths of each of the founding companies, i.e. hospital, physician office, et cetera? And then to follow up to that, where do you see this going in the next 5 years or so?
Okay. Yeah, we've covered that somewhat, but I'll get into a little more detail. I think the real beauty of this combination is that each company brings a different market focus and expertise to Concordance. Seneca, as Roger stated, is highly concentrated in acute care and has had really great success in servicing and growing that space. Kreisers has a strong presence in both acute care and alternate site, and a really very strong government division, which we're all really excited about. MMS has had a solid balance across all markets, and we've also been successful in a few niche markets, whether it be our school health initiative or our retail catalog. So the expertise of each one of these groups will be targeted across the entire space of Concordance. And I think, as Dave alluded to earlier, our combined employee force is really where this merger gets its greatest strength. We'll have over 1,000 employees and focusing on providing outstanding programs and services to all markets. And I'll reemphasize all markets. So it's really an exciting combination of 3 different companies that bring different sets of strengths to one. And that's it's one of the most exciting things about this merger. As far as
sorry, Tom, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
You want me to touch briefly on kind of a 5-year outlook?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, no problem. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to predict the future, but it really is our plan to continue to be responsive and customizable, I guess, adapting to this ever-changing healthcare marketplace. We also will continue to expand our geographical coverage, and our ultimate goal is to become truly a national distributor. So that's the plan in a very short summary.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Sorry I interrupted you there. I thought you were finishing up.
No problem. No problem.
Roger, I'll come back to you, Roger. Dave kind of touched on a little bit from your information systems, and as listening to Tom talk a little bit there, as you guys pull the 3 entities together and come, there's lots of questions, from our audience as well as just from an overall standpoint. on your information systems and the ramifications there. Any common warehouse systems that you possibly would move to, or common online ordering systems for the customers, or anything else really from a purchasing standpoint or a selling standpoint where you'll see common threads? I know I asked a couple of different things there, so if you need me to go back and take one at a time, I can do that.
No, I get the gist of it. That the challenge there is we're now into answering questions of how we're going to go about doing this. Not what it is and why it is, but how are you going to actually begin the process. And that is a challenge. Certainly all three companies have IT platforms that have served them well. We're all different in our own respect. There is no one common denominator in it. We're all running separate systems, different manufacturers. The IT guys have already met and have begun the process of trying to be a little more critical in an analysis of what each of the relative systems bring to the table, and sort that out to ideally pick what would then be the best in class. Wouldn't rule out the possibility of a new system for everybody, but that just means change for all three. The beauty, if we find one that works well, that we already have in-house, only two of the three of us have to go through the challenge of changing. But ultimately, we will be on one common platform, being able to operate 19 warehouses today off of one point of view that all customer service folks can see all things. All orders would be centralized through that platform to vendors. So at the end of the day, Concordance is one company, which is the intent to do that. But again, trying to find best in class is the immediate challenge in that process. But we will get there. Timeline is another tough one to comment. I would love to say within the year. Don't quote me on that. If there's one thing I've learned in the years I've been in business, it's whatever the IT people tell you, double the timeline. There are no arbitrary deadlines. We would not convert any of the companies to a new platform until it's seamless, and the truth would be to do it without a customer or a vendor knowing you've been converted. And I've learned one lesson very the hard way. You don't convert until you're ready, but we will get there. It is the goal. Ideally, it's the first of the major accomplishments, because it will be the core support for how this company goes forward.
Thank you, Roger. Roger, one more question, and actually, Roger, if you want to answer it, or any of the other gentlemen as well. Why Concordance? Why that name for the new organization?
Tom, why don't you tell them why Concordance?
Well, we had a number of names that we considered, and in today's world, a lot of names are already spoken for, and we didn't want a conflict with anything else. So it just so happens we kind of ran into a dead end and asked for some suggestions. And one of my partners, Dan Riemann, had a list of names that he submitted to the group, and one of them was Concordance. And we pondered that for a while. We did a trademark search and saw that it was clean, and we really liked the message of essentially three minds coming together as one, bringing similar values, as we keep talking about similar cultures. So it's really three different companies coming together as one, and that's what the logo shows with the three colors. And so we just like the name, we like the message, so we chose Concordance.
Man, I appreciate
Scott,
it.
If I can go back to the question, Scott, I would have probably wanted to answer not why so much we picked the name, but why should anybody pick Concordance? Why would a customer or anybody choose to do business with the entity? And I think over the last several years, as the ACA has rolled out, and I think Seneca as a company has tried to identify who we really are in today's marketplace, I think we've come to the conclusion, and I'll include all three companies in the new Concordance, is this, that what we What we aren't is Wall Street focused. We don't serve the market. We don't serve the call to the street. We serve our customers. And it's about customer-driven business relationships, not Wall Street-driven. I don't have to brag about getting AR down or inventory levels at all-time turns. I brag about fill rates and customer relationships. And over the last few years, I think we've really begun to see what the independent distributor's brand is. And it's a different brand than the national. We're not here to bring a high marketing profile of every value-added or at least questionably value-added service that one could dream up to the customer base. We're here to bring fill rates, accuracy, service beyond expectations, customer service that's localized to the customer, and really a common sense approach with just phenomenal outcomes. There's my speech.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate you answering it that way, as opposed to how I ask it on the name itself. I think it's a great answer, and that kind of brings us to the conclusion from a time standpoint. I want to make sure I honor that we said we would keep it within 30 minutes. We're right there from a time standpoint. I want to thank all three of you gentlemen for your candor today and for being on the call and being willing to do this and really speak to the audience that our publications reach, and ultimately your audience, whether that be the manufacturing community, the provider, or the provider. I'll finish the call just by reminding everyone this webinar/conference call is recorded, so we will put some information out in the daily news the next day or so with a link. So for anyone who missed it, they can go on and listen to it in its entirety. We'll also be doing, Mark Till will be doing a more in-depth cover story of this for the February issues of Repertoire and JHC. Obviously, we can't get everything we wanted to in a 30-minute call, so we'll be interviewing these folks going forward and writing an article in both those publications as we get into the new year. So with that, again, thank you, gentlemen. Congratulations on the merger, and we really appreciate everybody that was on the call today. It was a record-attended call for MDSI, so thank you so much. Happy holidays, and we will talk to you guys in the new year.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks again.
Absolutely.